I will call us to order. There are 4 or 5 of us here. I hope Andre comes as well. For those that are listening or may listen in the future, we want to call the roll.
Surely. Franklin?
Here.
Yasiker?
Here.
Gilbert? Here. King?
Here.
All present.
All right. I will ask for, well, first of all, would anybody like to add anything for our agenda for tonight? Seeing none, that's what I want to talk about later on. Well, then I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. So moved by Lisa, is there a second? Second by Nord. Any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approval of minutes. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
I have 2 extremely minor typographical errors.
Well, go right ahead.
On the second page, next to the last paragraph, the last word, purview, spelled P-U-R-V-I-E-E.
Yes, it is. You did?
And on the next page, on the very last line, it says Ms. Home.
Which was that? Oh.
Mr. Butler.
Unless that's an attempt to cover all the bases.
No.
What page was that?
The next to the last page.
Well, with those recommendations, can I get a motion to adopt minutes?
Move we approve.
Thank you, Jordan.
Second, Jordan.
Second, any objections? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Would you like to address us this evening?
I mean, so I just, because I know we were talking about the meetings and how often before I left the commission. So I know this has been like ongoing subject for us.
Right.
And I would just like to put the recommendation out there that maybe we quarterly and then have quarterly listening sessions around the city. So that was all I really had.
I think that's an excellent idea. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sorry not to have you on the commission again.
I got time. So,
Wait, but for the record, for the minutes, maybe you already have. May I ask you to introduce yourself?
yeah,
So,
JJ White, second ward resident.
thank you very much, JJ.
So, I'm sorry, kind of for clarity. So you're suggesting that we go around the city, like maybe we go to the 2nd ward, maybe go to the 5th ward? That's a good idea.
I think that's an excellent idea. If we could, if we could find places to do that, that would, wherever it is in each neighborhood, that would be a great idea. And I'm mindful of that in this first item. If I, the general feeling of the commission last month was that there really ought to be more input about the redevelopment of the, now gone strip mall and the other properties that the city has bought and knocked down or wants to knock down. And so I just had a question about how's that going? How many talks have been held? Where and when? I know that some of you have been to the city council meetings and heard people come up and speak to the council directly. Are there plans to hold more in the neighborhood itself? Are any common themes coming up? If you could just let us know about that. Nadine, I heard you been there, so if you want to tell us about that, or the mayor does, or the Bill does, that's fine.
I haven't been I've been in the council meetings.
Yeah.
That was my idea a couple of sessions ago, that we made a presence of ourselves there, so we could hear what the actual residents that are living there now feel.
And that is recorded on our YouTube channel too, so you could always go back to the last council meeting. Just wanted to watch that part. I think it was at the very beginning. so you wouldn't have to go through much to
No,
find
no,
it.
no.
And it was a great turnout. If you don't mind, I'd comment on that.
Please, I wish you would.
Yeah, so first, the city council, we're gonna have 2 listening sessions. The last one was at our last council meeting. I bet it went on for 20 minutes, more, 20, 30 minutes. Every walk of life, every idea you could ever imagine came out, which was fantastic. Many we've already heard because we've one-on-one conversations.
Right.
But it was really great for the council to hear it. And it was a reminder, there were people from like Fox Hollow there. There were the Greeks
Sure,
there.
sure.
Right, there were people that represent Annie Glidden North, Opportunity Calb's group that were there. And we heard everything from, community center, what was well, besides like grocery store and stuff like that, that's a common thing for sure.
Sure.
But also the Greeks suggested it'd be really great if they had like a cafeteria, because most of the Greek housing do not have cooks anymore. So there's no place for the Greeks to eat as well, just like this is a whole common theme in the entire neighborhood. Right? But we heard a variety of input from multiple citizens, which I thought was phenomenal. And the turnout, I wasn't sure how many people would actually come to a council meeting, and I was actually really pleased to see how many people came out. And we thought it was important to, rather than having the city of DeKalb have a separate listening session, which again, we have that problem of quorum that we were just discussing, violating of the Open Meetings Act. Why not give people the ability to be able to come directly in front of council at one of our regular meetings and speak? And it was a great turnout. We have another one coming up, not this next meeting. Yeah, so the 22nd.
Okay.
That'll be our second listening session for anyone that wasn't able to make it at the first one. But I think what's really important is there's also a group called Opportunity DeKalb. They originated out of the Annie Glidden North Revitalization Plan. They're a 501c3 that was specifically created, one, to figure out how to engage and provide additional services that might be lacking within the Annie Glidden North area, but then also from an economic development standpoint and a community development standpoint, to be able to target that and figure out what is best in that community based off of citizens' input and their engagement. Many of the board members on that committee are actively engaged, or I wouldn't say living, but actively engaged in a variety of ways within the Annie Glidden North neighborhood. So that board is going to have their own listening sessions as well, and they'll be announcing that to the community. And that is the purpose of them, is to specifically engage, have those listening sessions, get the feedback. And what the board reminds us of a lot is the L is one piece of Annie Glidden North.
Right.
As far as the revitalization. There's a lot of property there, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. This is just one component of the whole plan itself. So Bill and I are planning on attending, as long as the scheduling works out, attending the listening sessions as well. Maybe we get another council member there, which would be great to be able to hear it firsthand. But we're both on the board of Opportunity DeKalb, so we hear that feedback directly from them on what the recommendations are. Right now, there is no plan, there is no, this is what we're doing, this is actually, we are out there having these listening sessions, and we've also engaged people directly and organizations directly to have conversations about what do you see, what do you think, what might work, what is your crystal ball, what would be the most ideal thing. And we've had one-on-one sessions with individual residents that, one woman, I think I spent 2.5 hours at 8 Caveman, and she had it all drawn out, the whole entire L. That's the plan. She lives in University Village, this woman named Malia, that if you ever meet a woman named Malia, powerful, she's great. So we've been just spending the time trying to hear what's happening. One thing that's been great in the conversations as well is a lot of people are like, you should put a grocery store there. It's like, awesome. Give me a grocery store that wants to go there.
Yeah.
We should put a community center there. Absolutely agree, 100%. Who's going to run it? Who's going to do the operation piece of it? So there's a whole component. There's a lot of great ideas out there, but there's actually the execution piece and the operation piece ongoing that has to be a viable project as well. So it's not like we can wave a magic wand and make whatever happen. There has to be an organization that wants to drive it. There has to be an entrepreneur that wants to drive it. There has to be something like that in place as well. Now, we can do things with the land and help incentivize. Maybe there's grant opportunities out there. We don't know yet. And when we finally figure out, like, let's say what a majority of the people think is most wanted in that area, then we target some energy on figuring out what grants might be out there to help facilitate that. But it will be a public-private partnership, whatever happens on the L. So, yeah, right now we're ears open. Council is, Opportunity DeKalb is actively engaged. And we're getting great feedback at this point.
Well, that's wonderful. My two comments in response, and thank you very much,
Yeah.
would be, my concern would be if it's all, and I'm glad that Opportunity DeKalb was involved in that, because if it's only a case of pure people coming before the city council,
Correct.
you know, I worry about, I'm concerned about the single mom who's got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and the
Absolutely.
meetings in the evening, and, you know, during the week, and how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know,
So Dan-
you know, how do you even get downtown if you don't have a bus and so forth and so on.
Absolutely.
So as long as, you know, there are people that are actually in the neighborhood on the ground that are also getting responses, that's great.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no,
Before you
no.
get to your second point, Chad Glover is
Yeah.
the paid person at Opportunity DeKalb right now, and greatest heart, actively engaged, trying to figure out how Opportunity DeKalb can make the largest impact in that particular neighborhood. But then also Dan Kenny is the president of the board right now, and Dan's been working on his, we call it food hub, job training, daycare, his whole facility that he's trying to raise money for, that he already had the land gifted to him by Northern Illinois University, or at least pledged to him for, and then he's raised $500 million, something like that, towards it. He's actively pursuing every avenue possible to be able to implement something like that in the neighborhood. And if you know Dan, you know he's actively engaged in the neighborhood as well. But on the board, I'm trying to think of the board members, Ellingsworth Webb's on there, Glenn Roby, Matt Streb, the chief of staff of NIU, because obviously NIU is a whole component of Van Glen
Sure.
North. Will Heinisch. Yeah, Mike Pitsley.
I've been in a long number of those meetings.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you're
so
familiar.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so
yeah.
we're relying on, they are the group formed to be the tip of the spear as far as the determination of needs that are in that neighborhood and how can various public-private partnerships, nonprofits start shoring up those particular needs. And then you have the University Village Collaborative too, which I'm on the board for that as well. But they are going to be crucial in helping us. They're a great partner in helping us determine also, okay, directly boots on the street from the single mom who couldn't make it to council. What is the word? And like I said, Bill and I are going to do everything we can to make those meetings as well, so we can sit there first.
That's
and
great,
hear. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
My second one would be, and I don't know if this has come up, and maybe this is a stupid idea, but when we're talking about job training, and I'm particularly intrigued by Ann Kenny's notion that, you know, there'd be a way for people to learn how to operate a grocery store and this, that, and the other thing. Have there been any conversations with Kishwaukee College?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they have programs in auto mechanics and
Sure,
training to be a
All the
seasonal
training.
So
all the
Patricia
career paths.
Conan's the connection, and she's in charge of that.
Great.
So she's the point of that Kish connection, but not the only one. So the faculty and staff have, I don't know anymore, I haven't been there for 3.5 years, so I don't know who the Christian that works with, but she's the point. And she's had a good career, and she started with the state, it used to be called the Unemployment Insurance Office. She was kind of head of advertisements, and then she came to Kish because Kish had the responsibility for the office, and the state had 3 years operating in the city of DeKalb. So there is that connection now. That the key there, and Christian would say this, is that how many employers know about that, and how do they know how to advise their employees about making those connections for potential employees. People are applying for jobs and needing for training. Oh, by the way, there's this program that helps pay employers for the first 6 months of that new employees' experience in training that helps them get up to speed, kind of catch up and so forth. Christian knows that, and she's working with businesses in the area. That's part of her job, to let them know. Because people may come and apply for a job, and if the businesses don't know that it's free to the businesses. It's training, it's a state program. If they don't know that, they might say, well, promising person, but we don't have money. We expect people to show up ready to jump in the line or jump, on the floor, and that isn't necessarily required.
I'm just thinking, as you know, again, there are excellent, certificate programs, job training programs out there. And And it's kind of a hassle to get the bus there and
Mhm.
get out there
For
and
sure.
get back. If, you know, you've got childcare responsibilities and so forth and so on. And if there were a possibility of a satellite site, now, some of those things, what with the machinery and so forth, it's not practical, but if people could actually walk there, you know, that would be terrific.
Or if there was a way to increase the number of buses potentially to go out to
Sure,
college. you know.
sure.
Yeah. We do get a substantial amount of federal funding now. We have a large busing system
Right.
and 40,000 people and students to cart around everywhere on a daily basis. But at least the question should be asked, is that a possibility that we could do that? And then coordinating with Kish on classroom times and stuff like that. So that's definitely a conversation we should have with Christian, just to see what, and we're assuming that's the need.
Right. Yeah, right. I mean, I know.
Is that really?
Kish in the past has had classes at the
Yeah.
high school and, you know, here, there, and elsewhere here in town, so.
Well, what I hear too is soft skills is training that is highly valuable to employers. You know, like the Suter Company is a great organization, and
Yep.
they really actively try, talk about from a social or a corporate, I don't want to say social justice or corporate justice, I can't give the term, but they are really actively involved trying to hire as many people that all they need is that hand up, and then give them a great job with a great organization. And now they're an ESOP, so you actually have ownership in the organization as well. It's awesome. But I hear from them that the soft skills component is just as important.
Yeah.
Like how being on time, how do you communicate in an environment when you're being told something what to do, you're not being critical or criticized. Just what does that look like? And something like that, you don't need a lot of heavy machinery.
That would be
for,
great.
And
That
that
would
can
be
make
great.
someone more employable as well. That came up. It came up recently at, I can't remember, if it was the University Village Collaborative. That discussion was happening, and FSA runs that program now, which includes Camp Power, and there's a multitude of things that they do. But yeah, it's a great point to bring up that I'll keep top of mind.
Oh, thank you
as
very
I'm in
much.
these meetings and talk about what could that look like.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Did any of that?
Yeah, I like to make a point, of course, always. There's a store in Chicago called Mariano's. I don't know if you're familiar with that. You heard of Mariano's? Mariano's is in a lot of low-income areas. I don't know how they do it. They stay alive, and so that may be a good satellite location for Mariano's. And they may be interested in coming to some place like Cal. I don't have a connection with them. I don't know them. I used to live on 35th Street. They're there now. So I don't know how they got there, but I know that they thrive. I also think that if we're talking about skill development, you know, Hope Haven is right there. And so a lot of those residents could probably benefit if there was. Again, Chicago, I grew up on 35th Street. On 39th Street, there's a place called Dawson Skill Development Center. And so they teach people skills, people that are interested in skills. They do GED programs. So a lot of the programs that people need, again, they're not, I don't know that they necessarily bring money in unless you know about grant and grant writing. And I don't know how they're connected to the educational system. I imagine there could be some connection in some way that this happens. And it may be some way, I don't know, that even Northern could participate in helping to develop and help that community or a piece of a location thrive. And that's internships and opportunities for students, assistantships, and that wouldn't be a whole bunch of money. But it would be people helping people, which helps the community to thrive and be better.
So Hope Haven, except maybe the first urgent 24 hours, people are just trying to, settle in and so forth. I think within the first 72 hours, everybody has met with a social worker or whoever to develop a plan. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to be here the rest of my life. What am I going to do? And it's an evolving thing. It's not set in stone.
Right.
But part of that, to check the boxes, part of that is if employment is a piece of that, then there is a connection there with Kishwaukee College and others who can come in and give talks about, here's what we do, here's what we offer. So they're on developed really over the last 20 years. It's made people come and go, but the system's sort of hung together because it's needful. There's a good group, I think, different ages in that group with different levels of education and so forth, but they keep it running. There's still a lot of energy in it. I've seen samples of that because our CDBG program connects to that. We provide funding, and then the agencies have to justify what they do with our funding. And so they get to interview people who have been key people in various programs. So I'm happy to hear that. A lot of that interest is focused in the Antigua North area because it's about a quarter of our population.
Thank you.
Mariano's, all right.
It's what you don't see. I mean, you drive, you don't see any of this stuff. It's there.
See if I get anywhere. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Now, the only item that I had to bring before us as new, and I appreciate JJ being here about this, is, in the past, we've taken on issues, whether on our own behest or behest of the city council, or because citizens groups have, come to talk to us, and so, once upon a time, we investigated complaints about the police department. Now there's a board that does that instead. We advocated for, civil rights protections for LGBTQI plus, and so forth. But before the state passed its legislation, we looked into discrimination against people with disabilities, particularly when we had that case about the guy with the service animal that wasn't allowed to, bring the dog to Corn Fest. And during the Black Lives Matter summer protests and afterwards, we helped listen to people and encourage the development of a civilian review board and reorganization within the police department. We've asked the mayor at times to sign various proclamations, including one that specified that, no, we don't hold people without warrant for, so ICE can get around. And most recently, we overhauled, or asked to overhaul the landlord-tenant ordinance. And so my question is, I don't want to waste your time, but what's next? If we don't know what that is, I think this idea of meeting quarterly to get input from people, where is a great idea. Otherwise, I'm an old, privileged, white guy who is retired, and I don't necessarily have, and I don't think we're a perfect city right now, but I don't necessarily know everything that needs to be fixed. So I'd like to hear from all of you about where we go from here. Yeah.
I'll be quiet until, or maybe just let me throw this out.
No, please.
You're not alone. There's an
Yeah.
Economic Development Commission that has been meeting as long as you have, and probably longer in some form or another. And just recently we had the very same conversation and went over a number of meetings. They met monthly, as you do. And ultimately there were a couple things on the table. One was quarterly meetings with the opportunity that if a majority of the group, and it's a little bit bigger, I think they were 7
Bigger than that. Yeah, 9 or 10.
9 or 10. But close, not 20, 25.
Right.
As in some communities. But where a majority could, there's an issue, they're talking amongst themselves, hey, we really ought to weigh in on this, and then they can call a meeting, or at the mayor's behest, convene the group. So what they ultimately said was, we're just going to, we could do that. We could just go to the mayor and say, hey, we're going to be here, or the mayor can call them together and say, we're struggling here. This is something we would welcome your advice on. So that's one example. But they're not meeting quarterly. They're basically debating this. But they could meet at any time. They want to go talk to the mayor and say, let's meet.
Sure.
So it's something this group, you don't have to decide tonight, but it's something this group should really think about. You're right, one of the key things that was always sort of out there, what if, and that was what if we had what you see in other parts of the country, and we were worrying about this in the summer of 2022. What happens if there's a rogue city employee, whether it's in the police department or some other way, that is antagonizing, is bullying, whatever it is? Where is the redress? Where is the opportunity for people to come, not before the scary dais of the city council, but or through the court system? Is there an advisory volunteer citizen group?
Sure.
And so now we have the Citizens Police Review Board, which is specifically oriented toward that. That doesn't cover all the bases, but
No.
oftentimes that's where you see tension, because between the city as a body, it happens. It can happen any day on the street, or driving your car, things happen. So what else? That's what you're asking.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about it, and I'm just throwing that out to you. That here's an example that another group has wrestled with and seems to become.
I appreciate that.
I know Cohen has been there before and mentioned it, so it must be on the mayor's agenda for us to not meet regularly. I don't know what that means.
No, well, sorry, finish. I was going to respond, but please.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm
Well,
sorry.
you can if you like.
Okay, I didn't know if I was interrupting you. So I've always talked about staff time.
Right.
That's my biggest thing. If there's not a point to meet, then why meet? So then we can save staff time and also commissioners' time. That's my agenda. That's it.
Oh, okay.
And this is the same thing I talked about with the Economic Development Corporation, same thing I'm talking about. If there's no need to meet, then don't. But keep the group, keep the commission. You all would stay commission members. And like Bill said, if you feel there's a need, meet. Absolutely. And if I feel like there's a need to be able to call upon you, it'd be great to have a commission already established with commissioners there, and I can call upon you. So that is the only agenda, is just saving people's time and energy.
Well,
That's what-
frankly, we have 12 boards and commissions down from 14.
Yeah.
The council, a couple months ago, there was one group that hadn't met since 2002, so that was eliminated. There's nobody there to speak for it, and there's nobody to really argue one way or another for it. And then another group that, different circumstances, same thing. No energy, there were some people on it was the code review, code review was set up years ago when the city was adopting the building code series. But they also gave the committee the ability to make judgments about building officials or inspectors, day-to-day calls on stud size and all the rest of that. And that would have been unworkable because, believe me, not everybody's happy to see the inspector arrive anymore than they are to see the police arrive, So you could take it to an extreme, it would have been difficult. Well, and the people on that board didn't want to do that. It just said that was, so we freshened it, and now we're going to adopt a new code series, and they will meet for that purpose and advise. So, but it is, I have trouble making all the meetings. Scott Zach has been a good sport, but
Absolutely.
He's got half a dozen right now,
Mhm.
and does minutes because we're recording for YouTube purposes, and we're trying to be transparent and so forth. But we just don't have. I don't foresee us getting that level of staffing again, administrative. We're doing operational staffing up in different areas, but the fire department did real heavy lifting last year. And that's just because we're woefully behind any semblance of the national average in terms of number of people who respond to fire. And when I one day saw one person driving a fire engine, and the first to arrive couldn't do a damn thing, couldn't even hook up the hose to the hydrant, I thought, enough, So, and that's how, and we found some money for that. And Public Works, we hadn't hired anybody new in 10 years before I arrived here. We hired one person, and one person left, so we still were in it. So we hired that person last year. We'll probably hire up to the council, 23 budget. But you have to have so many people to drive the trucks in the winter time and do all that other stuff we want to do. Anyway, that's where I want to put my focus, because that's what you're demanding, that's what you're demanding, everybody, my tree, my whatever, that's why we're mainly in business, but we're also here to respond on the community side. And there are other ways we're doing that than just formally.
Right.
The Belonging Council is a big to that. It's a big part of my time and my day and my life and what I think about every day. And I just can't do all those things. And he can't do it. And I have nobody else. Joanne Rouse shows up for a variety of things. You know Joanne, I think some of you. But her day is mostly, and evening is mostly focused on the more traditional social service agencies. You know, she can do, you know, otherwise, and then you're, who's taking minutes, who's watching, who's recording, I don't know what to tell you, but that's the best I can offer.
I'm very, well, I
Could I
appreciate that.
finish? I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
We interrupted Lee.
Yeah,
Walking all over.
that's all right. Unfortunately, I'm used to it, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm just persistent. My concern is the work that this commission does. And I think that it could be tampered with if we reduce it to the mayor's behest or if somebody wanted it, because once we alter the approach, people alter their lives and alter their schedules. And I understand, you know, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough people. That's always going to be an issue probably in some area, that we don't have enough to do this. We talk about the land over here, what do we do? We don't have enough, we can't just make it a community center. But I think about the people that have been impacted by the work that this commission has done or brought light to. And if it was at the mayor's behest, we may not always have a mayor like Cole, right? We may have another kind of mayor. And if this is when this commission comes together, that may not be an option. Or the mayor might say, you know, well, I don't think that's really important enough for us to get together. My behest is that we don't do it. So I would rather err on the side of us continuing what we do. And I thought about what you said. It doesn't mean that quarterly we can't go around to different communities. It just means that we wouldn't stop the work that we're doing in the way that we're doing, which to me makes us accessible, it makes us tangible, and it makes us real to the community, right? They got a big deal, they got a problem, they got a so-and-so. Anybody that has history is like, hey, I'm going to the Human Relations Commission because I know last time they did X, Y, and Z. It doesn't cut the mayor out. It doesn't mean they won't go see the mayor. It doesn't mean they won't come and see you. It's sort of like the court system. It may take a while, but it still includes the community in the process. Whereas if we alter the way that we do business now, I think it creates a wedge between the community and city government. That's just my view, like you all have a view for what it's worth. That's my position.
My discomfort would be this, and if I would be very against, as you've been claiming, you know, that the only time this commission were to meet is at the behest of the mayor, regardless of who the mayor is. The only time to meet is when the mayor says you meet, you know, or the mayor asks you to meet. I mean, I think we should be responsive to the newspapers. We should be responsive to what happens in the community. We should be responsible to, you know, when people come and call you up and say, hey, what about this? You know, I mean, I think we have to have that kind of autonomy, absolutely. What makes me uncomfortable, honestly, is a couple of weeks before the meeting when Scott, bless his heart, calls me up and says, what's your agenda for next time? And I'm thinking, like, I'm just supposed to come up out of the air by my lonesome? I don't have that. I'm not smart enough to do that. You know, but I like, but I like the idea of meeting in neighborhoods because there are issues that somebody's not going to call me up and ask about, you know, and so forth and so on. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It's just the quarterly piece, with the exception of whatever is going on. So you know how we meet, right? And then, as opposed to not having access is a problem for me. It's a problem as a woman. It's a problem as a black person. It's a problem as a woman who dates women. It's a problem for the history of this country, of this town, of this nation, of this globe. It is a problem for me. And when I hear people saying, let's close that door until we decide that it's necessary for that door to open, I'm uncomfortable
I hear you.
Nobody ever said that.
Right, because we said you guys can meet
Please.
on demand whenever you want. That was always on the table.
Yeah, anytime you want to.
It's not at my discretion.
I heard the behest of the mayor piece.
That's one option. If
The
I
first
want
thing
you
was-
guys,
The
I
first
can
thing
call
I
you.
said was,
Yeah.
any four of you, or three of you, or whatever the majority is, can decide, let's meet. That's what we got a reason.
Right, and so what I'm saying is when people don't have something in their schedule, then they create, it's a whole bunch going on in life. So if we take this off of our schedule, you think something's not, you think I can't be doing something else? Because I can.
Well-
But I've made this a priority, and I think when we prioritize
Yeah.
being participants in the community, that creates the opportunity for us to
So
do
we all
something.
have, that's why we're here.
Yeah, yeah.
No doubt, no doubt.
And nobody more than anybody else, that's why we're here.
Right, but what I hear you saying is, well, I don't have staff for this, Zach gotta do this, he got
That's
six
true.
things.
And that's true.
And I get it.
But then you're not gonna be recorded, you won't have minutes unless you want to do it.
Well, right, the question to me becomes, how?
And that's fine.
Right, how do we then,
But
how do
you-
we make up for that person so that we have minutes?
Because we've all been in those groups, you've been in church groups,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
been in neighborhood groups, you've been in student council going back, whatever years, for me, a lot of years, 50 years. So, but the fact is, you know how to write, so you take your own minutes.
Right, not a
But
problem.
what usually happens is, nobody, how many times you've been in a group, all right, who wants to take the minutes? And everybody,
Oh,
like,
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
they
They all
have,
right there.
so, I'm just saying, I can't guarantee going forward that he's gonna be here dutifully doing all this.
Okay, I get that.
So,
Yeah.
so you gotta hear that.
Yeah, and let me be clear, I hear that, and I'm okay with that. That to me is saying, you all are gonna have to figure out a way
Yeah.
to get minutes done. And hopefully, you'd like a copy of the minutes. So if we have to rotate, I think we're capable of that.
But then the other thing would be useful, and I know since I've been here, you've invited me to come as a content expert in certain areas,
Mhm.
and then there've been others, Bert, the mayor,
Yeah.
other people. There has to be communication too. So if somebody calls me, or I can chase somebody, I guess, but somebody calls me and says, hey, we're going to talk about this, who would you suggest, or and of course
Sure.
you have your own ideas. But if you really want the city folks to suggest some things, and sometimes we're in the middle of it, because if you want to just talk about national issues, say, you can do that on your own.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to talk about the city stuff, we can help you with that, and to the extent that we can, you'll find others.
Talk about, like, I'm going to walk it over. The comment, first to clarify, at the mayor's discretion or yours. Now, on that point, there's precedence already. The Citizens Finance Advisory Commission, they meet on demand. They do not meet regularly at all. Around budget season, we start calling meetings, we invite them in, and they participate with council. So there is I think when something's a priority in someone's life, there's always you don't have everyone here now. There's always something that's going to come up, even when you have something regularly scheduled. But when something's a priority, people usually will accommodate. They'll adjust their schedule, like, oh, hey, there's an HRC meeting, I definitely don't want to miss it, and I'm going to be there for it. And we're seeing that right now with the Finance Advisory Commission. So it can happen, but I understand what you're saying. When something is regular, then it's always on your schedule.
Well,
you know.
let me add
Yeah.
also, right? So you're talking about somebody's finance meeting. I think that's different than when you're talking about Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, or LGBTQ before it became, like, was a part of the ordinance. I think the routine meeting, the consistency, I think all of that added. And so if I can't come this month, right, but I know the people are going to be there, I can send information. There is a, I'm almost hesitant to say it, but I'm going to say it. It's an underground railroad, if you will, to access that information.
Mhm.
So I think it's different when we say finance, because I think that people that probably run the finance or are participating or interested in probably have a history of being interested, probably have an investment in being connected to finance. I think we're talking about not necessarily, but a different group of people. And the work is different. and I'm not weighing it, I'm
Yeah,
not
I get
valuing
it,
it.
yeah.
I'm just saying that I think that there's some differentiation between the two groups. And so I didn't mean to offend you when I said, that feel like the doors are getting closed, it seems like y'all, that put your hair on your neck, I think that's the, I wasn't suggesting that, but I am suggesting that this commission is a priority to me, and I'm sure people like me.
Okay.
And it may not be for other folk who have access.
I hear you.
Well, let me finish, Bill.
Okay.
It may not be for other folk who have access to the city or politics in some other area because their needs are met. And I think this helps to meet the needs of other folk who may not be interested, have no knowledge, no history in accessing the city in some of those ways.
I may be wrong, so correct me if I'm not. So I don't think there's anybody here, certainly not anybody from the city, who needs to be reminded about the importance of access and transparency. I know I don't. And if you think I do, I'm gone. I'll just stay away from you. If you think I'm that person. I know you don't. I hope not. Here's the issue, though. Who this week talked to you, hey, you're on the HRC, when are you going to talk about this? But I've heard most of my meetings for years, this isn't like for 3 months running, most of the time, except during the summer of 2020, people were coming and saying, I don't know what you do, you have something to do with the city, can we talk about this? But mostly it was the initiative of this group that said, we want to have a role in this, we want to talk about this, and you did. And I'm grateful for that. But who even knows you exist? And that's not because of you're not doing the work, but other than the people closest to us, and Mark Sharbat,
Yeah.
who knows you exist?
Well,
I think there are plenty of citizens that know we exist.
But what do they know you're doing? Well, so they may know you exist. There's an HRC, I remember that, I went to that 5 years ago. What have you been doing? And I don't mean that critically, I just mean, let's be matter of fact.
well, some of the things that we would be doing, and I don't say this as a criticism.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is actually a good thing. Some of the things that we would be doing have been taken away from us by other agencies or other committees. I think what
And that's that's the conversation.
Yeah, I think what the Belonging Committee is doing is tremendous
Absolutely.
stuff. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think they're as far as feet on the ground and so forth and so on, walking the talk. I applaud what they're doing in a way that we were not able to do because we didn't have as many people and we didn't have the time for that. I think that's great. As far as investigating police officers, we don't do that, and so forth. So my question is, I mean, I'm happy to meet as often as anybody wants to meet, but if we're not doing those things, then either we ought to be looking for other things to do, or making an effort to listen to what people in the community think that we could do or we might do. But Nadine and Norton, I'd like to hear what you two think about this too.
Well, I would just suggest that maybe we not meet as often as we every other month. And if of those 6 meetings a year, 3 of them are somehow open to the community, although we do have public participation, so we are open to the community, but maybe we need to go to the community to do that. I'm not sure we need to meet every month, but I would like to continue to meet regularly
Okay.
in some way.
Yeah.
I also just looked at the ordinance. The ordinance says we will have 7 people on the commission and we will meet at least monthly. So if we're going to modify that, it really should
Yeah, it comes from council. We've
go to
done
the
that.
council with recommendation.
Yeah.
That's what
I think everybody that has spoken has a validity to what they're saying. Every single person that has spoken, there's something of each that makes great sense. I think that I'm probably more in line with what Norton's saying. It doesn't have to be every month. Maybe we should go out into the community. But I do think that I agree with Lisa on the importance of what we do. And then I hear Bill say, well, who knows you exist? Well, how about we make people know we exist?
That's right.
Yep.
How about we work to make people know that we exist and are here? Because we've had some really great times with people coming here, whether it was for the landlord-tenant, the Black Lives Matter. I mean, we really had a lot of things going, and we did a lot of writing back then, right before you took over. We did a lot of things. So I'd like people to know we exist, and I'd like to see you guys want to give us some things to do too. If everybody's splitting off to the point where we're just this little entity, I mean, everybody has to input. Can't be just us going out in the street and saying, hey, we exist, we need you, we need all of us. And that's kind of what I feel.
Yeah, appreciate that.
We have faced that in the past, and we've come up with a brochure. I don't know how effective any of this was, but we've come up with a brochure, or we've participated in events at Hopkins Park or Cornfest or whatever. So there are things we could do, although I'm not sure how effective they are.
And there is something to coming to speak. The city council meeting is like, probably to some people, really big to go and speak.
Yeah.
How many people are going to go up to a podium, like people that have not everybody, but this is a small, welcoming, very diverse group of people, and you know, it might be easier for some people to be able to speak with us. And then we also did a little bit of arguing to make sure that we were available at this earlier time, and we're, you know, so we are doing things to try to become more accessible, but it's up to us, but it also is, you know, what do you think we can do, because this is a pretty damn good group of people sitting in this room, if I may say so, including myself. So we have things, thank you, Bill. We have the ability to do things.
I tell you what my mother says, Bill. It's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Right? So right now it's not a big deal. But down the line it may be a big deal. And if things have changed drastically, who's to say? And I don't know who's to say. What I know is that I have benefited, not just in DeKalb, but in other communities where there are entities to help and support people that aren't broadly supported or don't feel broadly supported. Let me say that. I think that's important.
And I hope I wasn't too bold. So here's my dilemma all my life. I'm an operation. I'm a doer. I'm an action. I go out and live, you know. And it doesn't mean I do it without forethought. I do that a lot. You climb into my thoughts sometime. You can't shut them off. But the fact is, and I push the belonging group as well, because here we are 2 years on, and not a lot of people know, is it belonging, what do you mean belonging? You know, I've never heard of it. So, and just this morning I was talking to some members, so we're pushing for some action. And you know what we've decided on? It seems like the safest way to start. We have a lot of faith communities, right? And we have a lot of people in churches in our community who are used to having fierce kind of conversations, or regular, maybe irregular, but you know, they go somewhere then, and they lead to something. And so I'm in it for that, and I think we're going to start some conversations where we're not just talking to ourselves. We're trying to talk to people who want to connect but don't know how to connect, don't know and maybe haven't been bridge builders, but might benefit from being involved in building bridges and closing gaps and showing, and they maybe are respectful and they worship every Sunday, but the first time they're challenged on the street to do something, they don't know how to act, and so they fall back into old ways, you know.
Yeah.
Those are folks we need to engage. And in my mind, in the time I had left in this town, I'm happy to bring in new business, work with teams to bring in new business, and that's great for our community, but what do we all gain if we don't have that community piece? So how does this group work into that? What I fear is there's two things that you will always be doing. One is reacting to, like Black Lives Matter, and you did that well, but I don't want you to be called together because a bullet that went into a brick building finally ricochets and goes through a window and kills a child. Right. Then what are we going to say? Then there'll be that community-wide discussion about, do we have enough police? Do we have too many police? What are we doing? Do we go soft? Do we go hard? And those are concepts that we talk about now every day anyway. But what can you be doing to knit it all together in a regular way? And I think that's what the belonging piece is. And I see a natural merger there. Truly, I don't know how that works. I'm not saying blend into that. I mean, maybe that'll blend into you, but we would have, you know.
I do think, you know, we're trying to accomplish some of the same things.
But as your organization was defined in the code, as Doris was saying, one key thing was you would be a place, and Nadine was touching on this, where a person could, without having to go before the scary council, talk about something fairly personal that happened to them or affected them personally, and put it to you. And you were then to refer, you know, it's a limited role, but you were then to consider and then bring in officials or agencies or whatever who could help that person. You know,
Or direct them.
Pardon?
Or direct them.
Or direct them.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah, but maybe help, you know, grease the
Facilitate.
connection and so forth. And I think that's still a key role. That's a good role, because we don't have that exactly.
I think that, I mean, as far as referring people to different agencies and different officials, I mean, that's what I did 3 weeks at a Florida church, you know, I mean, I was sitting in my office, you know.
Made a life out of it.
And pardon?
You made a, I mean.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think that's a valuable service, and I think that is something we can perform.
So Norton suggested every other month, that's 6 times a year. I threw out initially the quarterly thing. Any or both, either or both is tonight. Or if we're staying with the same thing, then I think more effort has to be put in by the commission to say, here's what our plan is, or maybe you have.
Right.
And I guess I can't remember what Nadine made the comment about us bringing stuff to you guys. I struggle with that, and I've thought about that before, because we're actively involved in the Belonging Council. We're actively involved in University Village Collaborative. We're actively involved in Opportunity Cal. There are organizations out there that are in the weeds on a regular basis. They're meeting monthly. They've got a mission. They've got grant funding. They've got their 501c3 status. They're after it, which is phenomenal. That's why I don't know sometimes. It's like, I see there's a lot of organizations out there executing on a lot of what you've done, and a lot of the great work that you guys did got implemented. The Citizens Police Review Board. So now that's not a concern of the HFC, because there is a great board that's there representing and available to the public. So you guys accomplished a lot of great things that has caused this conversation to happen, because other things have spurred out of it. Other groups have formed to specifically tackle the issues that were before you. I'm saying, and when you talk about people reaching out, daily, if not multiple times a day, people are reaching out to me, to council members, asking about X, Y, or Z. It could be a pothole. It could be, I've had multiple, one just recently, that was an accusation against the police, so I forwarded it directly on to the chair of the Citizens Police Review Board. We do get a lot of citizens reaching out electronically, especially because that's easy. It's not intimidating. You're not going before the council board. So there is a lot of that happens at the council. We've got a good council. They're actively engaged as well. So I'm not trying to ramble. just does come down to, I don't know how much I could, and obviously it's a whole city, we can all be thinking about this. I'm just saying, me personally, what I could come up with for you guys to do, because I think a lot of what we're the only mechanism for. Now there's other mechanisms out there that have a large group behind them of people singularly focused on that particular thing. But you guys have more general, like, there weren't these organizations out there, so you were the end-all, be-all for when something needed to happen. People came to you for that, or you went to them and initiated it. So that's where, if it's every other month, like Bill said, fine, doesn't matter to me. If you go quarterly, fine. Except my only agenda was just time, your guys' time, and staff's time. In no way, shape, or form do I want to close the door at all. And the goal, like even another precedence, I know the Finance Advisory Commission wasn't a good example. The Economic Development Committee, they've been formed before, and they shut down. And they came back to life again when we were struggling with economic development, so they were reinvigorated. So there are commissions and committees that have been active. They shut down for a little while, then we reactivate them, and they continue forward. And like the Economic Development Corporation just decided, you know what, let's just go on demand. And it's on demand whether if they want it or at the discretion of the mayor, as Bill put it. So that's, I guess, it's really up to you guys. And you don't have to decide tonight necessarily. But if we're struggling for agenda items, like you said, I don't see the logic in having a meeting just to have a meeting.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't, but I'm intrigued, but I want to be cognizant of what you said and what Lisa's brought up as well, which is particularly in this new L-shaped whatever it is that happens there. You know, we do have a plethora of social service agencies. We do have the family service, we have youth services, we have, you know, we have Safe Passage, we have Hope Haven, we have, and so forth, and so on and so forth. And this one's here, and this one's here, and this one's here, and this one's here. One of the things that I'd love to see in this in this redevelopment project is to work out some kind of universal intake form. So that, okay, here's your, you know, if somebody comes in and says, I need $116 by Thursday, otherwise, because if I don't have it, they're going to turn up my water. If I turn up my water, I lose my Section 8 housing. If I lose my Section 8 housing, I lose my kids. You know, I saw those people a lot.
Yeah.
And to have an office, you know, and we can even staff this perhaps, if you know, and say, well, okay, have you thought about, you know, this, you know, you need to get on the phone and go to this person and so forth, not rather than ride around on buses all day, you know, hoping this, maybe it's this agency, maybe it's that agency, maybe it's something like that. When my son was going to school down at U of I, there was a dead mall in Urbana, and that, you know, all the, you know, the anchor stores pulled out and whatnot and so forth. But I mean, there were satellite offices of all these social service agencies. So somebody could walk in there and say, you know, we don't actually do that. But if you go 3 doors down on the left, there it is. You know, I mean, I would love to see some, I don't think we can move all these agencies into one big building that has no revenue, you know, or anything like that. But if we could somehow redefine ourselves as being able, as a group that people could contact in order to, so where do I go? So who do I ask for help? I think that would be great.
So if Opportunity Cal survives and grows, logically have an office there and somebody pay part-time, like you Chad, or maybe they might actually have a base, a funding base, and then they can do it. So it doesn't take a social worker or a psychologist to do what you're describing. It just takes somebody to be there, and everybody knows that person's there, and that person's a pretty affable person, and you know, not scary, and seems to be knowledgeable of the piece, and can provide that intake form or whatever. So that's been discussed. That's on that list of 20 things that keeps coming back. That's one of those things. I don't know where it is. It may be higher on somebody's list than somebody else's, but it's recurring. Food is another, you know, piece of that. Healthcare is something like that. I could list those 10 real quick for you, but that's not what we're here about. But all I mean is that L, where nobody lives right now, is what the city's focused on right now. We're sitting there and we're growing grass. That's why we spent, you know, $2.5 million. And there should be some purpose to that if we're doing this in your behalf. We're looking for more ideas, that's what we're listening for. And we're listening to everything, but the Opportunity Cal Board now is listening to everything else, the ongoing, like the pieces, what you're just describing. So we're talking about a place where that could be.
Yeah.
It's 120 square feet. It's not much, you don't need much, you know. There presumably are restrooms in the other parts of the building, you know. But, so that's just one little piece, but it's a nugget that you probably ought to go into that building design if there's going to be building there, right? Or multiple buildings.
But that's what Opportunity Cal is constantly reminding us of, though. Like that idea, great idea, the neighborhood needs it. The L just may not be where you put it. There's a lot, there's
Right,
a lot
right,
of, and there's other things at play right now that most likely will open up more space, more opportunity, and maybe check some additional boxes that people have already talked about on that list of 10, 20 that have nothing to do with the L, but they're right in Clinton North as well. So I think those are saying, yeah, the L is, I don't know what he's saying, except we're still listening, still trying to figure it out.
We'll say everything, but right, what the council's focused on, so we've spent all the money, you know, for the last 2.5 years, bang, 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 beat the 100 demon to death. And we got the property and got federal money to help us with it. Now what are we going to do? We should be asking that on your behalf. I mean, people pay taxes for this, you know, So that's a little piece that we're talking about. But this group can talk about everything, and we will as well.
Anybody thought about putting a big sign up there with an email or a phone number saying what's to go here, what do we need in this community? You talked before about postage, so that we could ask people what they thought they needed. Some people don't know what they need until they get it. I will say the grass looks nice. I drove past that the other day, I was like, wow.
Looks like a farm.
That was quick.
Yeah.
It looks like a what?
Looks like a farm.
One's grass, one's weeds.
Well, we say.
Well, what I know is it's green and it's not
I know, it looks
concrete,
great.
And it was quick. I just thought,
It was.
this is so quick.
The
Look at
rain-
the count, they never fail.
The rain,
Yeah.
But somewhat to second what you said, there are all these organizations. And in the past, when you had hearings on what to do with that space, you might come to us for input, given the diversity of this group. But it sounds like you've got all that input now.
And the task force did a great job. You could say, well, it's dated, that was in late 2018 when the report was produced, but, and things have changed, some things have changed. But a lot of the things, for better or worse, they still are demanding attention and haven't gone away.
Well, anything, well, you know this as well as I do. I mean, any survey of people's needs and so forth in part of town is going to be a snapshot. Because there are some things that organization came up with and so forth, and there are people that suggested that aren't there. And the people that come and talk to you are not necessarily going to be there next year. So I mean, there is that.
Hey, Scott, to Lisa's point, if you can help remind me tomorrow, Bill, the University Village Collaborative is having a whole, they call it, it's a back to school thing where they're providing backpacks, and I think they're going to have, well, they've got at least $10,000 that they can buy backpacks with school supplies. And what they're doing is, in the University Village Community Center, they're having all the nonprofits that are part of the collaborative, or as many that can make it, which will be substantial, that there'll be stations where you get your pencils here, you can get your backpack there, you can get your X, Y, or Z kind of things. And in order to get those, you have to ask questions. So it's a way that they're going to help engage the community on all the different social services that are available. And at the end, you have a backpack full of which school your kid's going to, what they're requiring for school supplies. What would be really cool, Scott, where I'm getting with that is your point of that's a perfect opportunity we could pass out. What do you think should go in the app? We have a flyer there, and there's going to be, I would think, a ton of people are going to come through there, and that's a neat way to help get out the word. And we can come up with an email address, the l@citycal.com, to make it really easy.
You might have to ask the staff to look at the email, but.
Oh yeah. This one.
That's
Should I?
that me right there.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry to take you away from one job and give you another one, but, I guess they pay, Will that include Amber Manor as well?
No, well, no, the University Village Collaborative, because, so the funding's from, I can't remember what source, let's say it's from the federal government, and the funding.
Sale,
Not for University Village Collaborative, the money for the backpacks that FSA has. I think it's directly from HUD. And if they have this distribution in the University Village and people can just prove they live in the village, that pre-qualifies them as low income and they can automatically get everything they want. So in this case, it's just University Village.
Well, I just talked to somebody today who told me that Amber Manor now is subsidized. And so, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
don't think it's 100% though. No. Yeah, and I think University Village is 100% subsidized housing. And that's why for FSA to be able to do this, where people don't have to fill out a very personal form on all their financial situation and everything, they literally can just show up, prove that they live in University Village, and they qualify for the backpack program. And there's 550 units there. There's a lot of people in University Village.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, to your point, we're going to have a captive audience of a lot of people that live in Manatee North that we get the word about. Email the l@citygov.com.
Well, there's a back to school, I guess it's a bash that happens at is it the rec center? Yeah, so there's another opportunity as well.
Well, and New Hope is doing one, and I think the school district does one as well. Yeah.
Right, so this would be the most heavily backpacked student population.
You hope, but I know it's one of the biggest needs out there.
Well,
what's worse than starting school without everything you need to participate in school? You know?
Well, I would hope two things, that we could also maybe provide some, I don't know if there's going to be anything left over, but provide that to the school so that when students don't have it, the school can say, hey, we got some money to pay for it, we got some. And the other piece would be, at that larger one, and I don't know who puts that together, that might be an opportunity that also asks people, hey, what do you think belongs? You can make that a city thing, right? I was telling Bill, I think last time we were here, again, I keep referencing Chicago because I'm from Chicago. And Chicago used to have a phrase, a catchphrase, Chicago works. And Chicago has 50,000 little communities and neighborhoods. And each little neighborhood or community has a festival. Somebody's having this, somebody's having that, somebody's having that. But they don't limit it to just that community. They put it on the news, right, so everybody can come because people want to get people to come to their community to experience whatever it is. I just saw the Polish women, I guess they had the pierogies, it was a thing.
Yeah.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a thing. And so I think when DeKalb can begin to operate as a city and not just a little, this enclave, because they need some support, they need some help. But when we can broaden that up, and my background is that we don't have to wait until it's all put together nicely. We can start that now. And so
that's belonging that you're describing in my eyes in many ways right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything.
That's the problem, so we have to pump that up.
So they're like us. Nobody knows who they are.
Well, but you've seen belonging around, I mean,
I haven't.
Well, okay, it's
And they work with Deanna Cater, and I work with her with that survey for mental health, but not the people.
Yeah.
No, not her. Just read about it.
But again, like everything, it's very hard. I mean, corporations spend millions on marketing to get their brand. I mean, it's very hard to penetrate and communicate and get everyone to know a particular thing. Belonging they are making a lot of progress from a recognition standpoint. Like Bill said, we just need to keep nudging them to get to the
This is what I'm saying. Everybody in Chicago knew about the pierogi thing. Everybody in Chicago knew about Taste Chicago.
But how long did that take to get to where everyone knew about the pierogi thing, though? I mean, that didn't happen.
Well, I don't have the answer to that, but what I know is it was publicized enough that people do know. And what I'm saying is, what you're talking about, we don't know. How many people knew about HRC before Black Lives Matter? How many people knew about HRC before the ordinance for LGBTQ? I don't know. And it doesn't matter. What I know is when an issue that was important to them was brought up, they showed up. It's like Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will come. It's not, let's talk about it and let's get together. It's let's talk about doing it. Let's do something.
Yeah.
And the people will come. So
that was the demand, remember? We need action. 2 years ago. We need action.
So-
He needs talk too. but-
So the big back-to-school bash that they're having at the, whatever this is, the rec center or something, that's an opportunity to partner with them to do some stuff
Is that
so that
NIU,
people
you
will
said?
know. It's not NIU. No, it's New Hope.
Oh, New Hope.
Right.
Well, I thought they were doing it at the church. They're doing it at the rec center?
Yeah, it's abused.
I don't know, when I was involved in it, we did it at the rec center.
Yeah, it's not at the church.
With New Hope,
Where
okay.
the soccer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have games, they have cheerleaders, they have all kind of stuff. The health department is there.
There
Right.
was more than.
So that's an opportunity even for the city to say, hey, this is what we do. This reflects the cow, not just these little
Yeah, that's good.
pockets of people doing stuff.
We did, and you were asking about was the city, can we have like a community, what we call it, chalkboard or whatever. And Scott, you do something, but until Scott arrived, we didn't have much of anything.
No.
You know, council meetings and that kind of thing. But tell us what you do on a regular basis in terms of our Facebook page.
Yeah, so I take care of the social media pages, Facebook page, Instagram page, Twitter page, as well as keeping the news section of the website fresh. So, you know,
The newsletter too?
yeah, well, the newsletter,
Email.
kiosks in the downtown, anything's kind of external communication. So, yeah, my mind has been.
And our social media, because of him, it's phenomenal. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of subscribers, comments on just about every post. He keeps things current and fresh. And then our newsletter, I don't remember how many email addresses are part of our newsletter too, but it's the
I don't think the
same.
newsletter, does it come to people's houses? Is it electronic?
Electronics, yeah.
You gotta be on the list.
Yeah.
You just subscribe to it like any newsletter.
I'll add
Oh,
on.
I wanna
It's
suggest,
gonna be August 13th at the rec center, and probably why you didn't know that was because of COVID 2020 and 2021. They did a drive-up distribution at DeKalb High, and now they're
Okay.
going back
Gotcha, yeah.
on Saturday, August 13th, from 11 to 1 at the Sports and Rec
See, I
Center.
don't have children in schools, and I wasn't keyed into that, so I didn't know that. So it's just another example. There's a lot of information out there, and there's probably no one way that you just have to be searching for it.
I want to suggest a collaborative, since you're both on the board of Opportunity to Help, I want to suggest a collaborative project that I think the HRC and that body could be involved in. I did this years ago. Trying to bring all, we have essentially a program from 8 in the morning till noon, and we have lunch or whatever, but we invite all the social service agencies together someplace. We have, and to talk a little bit about what kind of services they provide. We invite leaders of all the various, faith communities, to come as well. To also have information about the kind of opportunities or the kinds of help that they provide. And we have some scenarios. We have some scenarios that here's this family and you're in this situation and so forth. What do you do? Where do they go for help? When I did that, I don't know, 30 years ago, we had well over 100 people that came to that because with clergy, there's a lot of turnover. And so somebody becomes pastor or the imam or the rabbi of this particular congregation, they don't particularly know what we have in churches, in religious communities is this one decides that they're going to collect winter coats for kids. And this one decides they're going to collect winter clothes for kids. And so does this one. And so mom has to drive from one place to the other looking for the right size coat. We don't have all the coats in one damn place, or whatever it is. Whatever the church that I served provided, layettes, blankets, diapers, soaps, and things like that for new mothers who were in the WIC program, and we could just bring them over to the health department, and done that for 30 years. This one does this one does that, this one does that. Because the way these various communities work and the way these various agencies work doesn't necessarily follow any kind of common sense. Like there was a time, once upon a time, when if somebody were to come to my office and say, my mother's dying in California, I need a ticket to get to California, I need, so forth and so on. who in the heck has money for that? Well, at one time, the township did. And I could ask Pat Levine at the township to buy somebody a ticket. Why would you ask the township, you know, as opposed to this one, just because they did it? So there are these various agencies that fill this niche, that fill this niche, that fill this niche. And there are faith communities too. And I think it might be productive to have some kind of a weekday thing where all these people come together and basically say, well, yeah, you got this kind of problem, call me.
I'll do an introduction with you and Chad Glover, who is the
Great.
executive director
Okay,
of
wonderful.
Opportunity College. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like I didn't hear. I don't know if any of you are follow the Facebook page, or if you like Twitter, follow Twitter. And if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, I would highly encourage us commissioners alone to be familiar with the communication mechanisms that the city of DeKalb does already put out.
That's what I thought, that you all would automatically add us.
Well, you know, we need, you know, a post doesn't just
Yeah.
come. If I can post your agenda, nobody's gonna look at it. You need to engage it.
Yeah.
No, but we can't add you to Facebook. You have to add
No,
yourself.
I thought like to the newsletter or something that we would just.
You're in the list of, you know, upcoming meetings.
No, she's saying individual commissioners automatically getting
Oh, yeah.
to the newsletter.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I thought that to me, that makes sense. If you're participating with the city and here, this is what, a part of what happens. But you're saying I need to contact you and say.
I can add you. I cannot add you.
Technically, I don't know the legality of that, automatically adding people to a mass distribution email list, or the ethics behind it, because that's, like, I could just, because I'm mayor, I could find all your guys' email addresses and I can add them to Sundog's distribution list. There's actually ethics and rules in place for that.
But that's not the city though.
No, I understand.
Right.
But you are an individual, that is your individual email address, and we're adding you to a mass distribution spam list. So
I get
just-
added to lists all the time. You can unsubscribe.
Yes, and they're not supposed to do that, is my point.
Yeah.
That's illegal.
Well, I work at the university, right? They send us these announcements. We don't have to open them either.
Yeah, you're a university employee, that's different. When you signed up in the terms of your employee contract, probably has something about how they can communicate with you, they can use your image, they can do things like that.
Right.
My only point is, maybe we just adjust when we onboard new commissioners, we can let them know that.
There you go.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. See, that.
But in the meantime, just go to the website and sign up to the newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah, send me one, add me or whatever, send me something to do.
I'll send you the link. It's
Yeah.
just your first name, last name, you know.
Okay.
But social media really is where it's at. I mean, we really,
Yes.
amidst, like the mayor was talking about, getting a lot of great community discussions, getting input, input that way, and then, so it's an
Is
avenue.
it a diverse response?
Diverse meaning,
We don't know.
Blacks, whites, Latinos,
You don't always
Asians?
know, I mean,
Well, I mean, when you see their images.
yeah, but not everyone puts images either.
But for the images that you do see.
Yeah, the images that I do see, I see a diverse population, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
there's.
yeah, you can go look at who follows the DeKalb,
Yeah.
City of DeKalb Facebook page. You can see all their
Then there's
pictures.
7, 8, 9, 10,000 people on the thing.
Wow.
It's a ton of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
But like this great idea for the address, the L at cityofdekalb.com, you gotta come up with something that engages people and really stands out. I mean, there's a lot of, as we've been talking about several times now, there's a lot of groups doing a lot of things, so it's hard to break through the clutter, and get people's attention.
I want to be mindful of people's time. We've been here for about an hour and a half. If people have other things to bring up, that would be great. But JJ, thank you, and your assistant for being here, and the mayor, and the city manager, and Scott as always.
Did you decide on the meeting schedule? Or no?
Well, can we? I mean,
Yeah, because if you go before council, then. we
Okay.
can change it, so.
Say what you want, we'll make it happen.
Right.
Okay, can we have a motion that we meet bi-monthly and investigate the possibility of, or let's make that a separate motion.
Say bi-monthly?
Bi-monthly, every other month.
All right, I will make a motion that we recommend to the city council that they
That would
amend the ordinance to allow us to meet every other month.
Unless, until or unless there's there's sufficient reason that we meet more often.
You can always call special meetings.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
we don't have
okay.
to write that in the ordinance.
Okay, Any further discussion? If not,
Second for that?
yes, at least a second.
Oh.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
This is different now that Dean's not here, right? Remember Dean said you can't just come up with something? You gotta make an action item and then you have to.
Oh, yeah, I know, like, we couldn't vote on it if it wasn't.
Yeah, you have to, you know, I don't know
That's
enough
what I'm
about
used to.
procedure to know
That's
what's
what I mean,
right.
that's what I mean.
Or what's not right.
Second measure, would you like us to go forward with trying to investigate the possibility of meeting in various neighborhoods and in the various wards of the city in order to get input
I
from
would.
citizens?
I would.
You want to make that
Listening-
motion?
Listening meeting.
Okay, is there a second? You're nodding, Nadine, so I'm going to say you seconded. All
But at
those-
this point, we're just investigating.
Right.
Yeah, no, we'd have to figure out times and dates and all that kind of stuff.
Can that be the commission figuring out times, dates, and locations?
Yes.
Scott.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Scott's like,
Yeah.
But we have to consider, I
You
mean,
brought your back up to the meeting, man? You
No,
feel like
no,
we
I
threw
mean-
up on you?
that could mean going to PTA meetings, you know, that were PTO meetings.
Well, contacting the older people, the aldermen, right, the
Oh,
older people.
That'd be fine.
That would be, I
That'd
mean,
be
that's
fine.
an easy in, I would think, they
Okay,
know
okay.
space, that's
Can we
available.
get a vote on that? Should we investigate that?
Yeah.
All right, we
Support it.
will do that.
Did
Is
we
it-
vote? We have to vote.
Oh, yeah, okay. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll go forward with that then. Anything else to come before us?
So our next meeting will be October,
Our next meeting will be October, right, that's right.
and we still have Scott.
Yes, sir.
We didn't have discussion on the motion. If we had, I would have said, just be aware that if you become mobile, and be nice enough,
Yes.
you're a public body, all appointed by the mayor, so OMA rules apply to meetings act and so forth.
Well,
So we have to find places, and then send announcements, and
Post notice.
and different things.
It's on the
Yeah,
door.
yeah.
well, let me ask about that, because I'm not sure about this. Do we want to, and I'll ask the commission about this, do we want to have full commission meetings, you know, with the various, you know, in the various wards of the city and so forth and so on? Or do we want to take turns, two of us, one of us, and so forth, to go to a neighborhood meeting and say, I'm from the HRC, this is what we do. If
Joe,
you
that
have
makes a lot of
concerns-
sense.
What?
That makes a lot of sense, Latino.
That's what I thought you were
I didn't even think.
That's
of
what
that.
I.
You're talking about moving the fees.
No,
It's always been in Aunt Martha's, and this, next week, next 2 months.
I mean,
But we have to discuss that, because I was thinking we would all meet and
Okay.
take in.
Yeah.
Well, now what we know is on next month's agenda.
Okay, well,
No,
next
it's a
one. In October, we're gonna figure out what the logistics of this is. Okay,
You could always reach out to find some community members or community organizations, when do they meet? You could gather all that information in the meantime. you know.
So nothing's ever prevented you from doing that now.
Yeah.
no, I know.
That is a good idea.
Okay, I do too.
That the individual, show up and then going around the room, who are you, what do you do? Well, and by the way, I'm also on the.
Yeah.
We're interested in
Okay, that'd be great.
I think we adjourned,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we-
And if it's not, like, I would be highly interested in going to a lot of those.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so if I'm not, I don't want to detract.
No,
from it.
not at all.
Well, I know, but I would be highly interested in going to all of those.
Okay, great. Okay, that'd
Do
be great.
do you go as a mayor, do you go around to the different
I go to everything I possibly can.
boards?
Everything I
well, when an
possibly
alderman,
can.
when an
No,
alderman
no.
meets.
Go ahead.
When an alderman has a,
Usually I go to every board meeting, yeah.
Oh.
or
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I always ask their permission to go, because I don't want to, the mayor can be a distraction, and it's like, it's the older person's meeting, so I want them to have it. But I ask if they would like me to go, and usually they do.
And I'd like them to tell me, Phil, you don't have to come, but
Yeah.
I don't ever.
But Lisa, I also go to just about every event. If I hear about it and my schedule allows it, I go to just about every event I can. It's constant, so.
So you don't plan to go to this thing on the 13th of August now?
I can't, because my son gets married August 12th. So the day after is brunch at
That's a
New
great-
in
that's a
Moss
great
on the
reason.
17th, so.
Okay, well that.
Otherwise, I would, but I'm gonna be at the
Well,
university.
what about the mayor's representative? where I'm from, if the mayor can't come, then they have a representative.
I don't have an assistant, I don't have anything, it's just me.
That's Bill.
I can't do August 13th. I'm doing 50 Meadow Cook on August 13th.
But what I can do is
I was fired from that.
let the alder people, I can let the alder person know, and that would be what you're referring to, I think. I can let the alder person know that's gonna be in that board, that's available to them.
Yeah,
And
I would.
better yet, what I'll do is I'll email the whole council, let them know and remind them that no more than 2 can go.
Yeah, I would think there should always be some city representation on a broad basis.
Yeah, you would be amazed how many meetings and events and everything that happen though. I mean, it's constant.
I would be.
There's probably 10 things going on tonight, so you
But
can't.
that's not a meeting, that's not a kind of
Right.
thing that.
No, it's
And-
not, but I'm used to, like, that somebody's gonna show up, and somebody's gonna see them, right? They don't even have to make a speech, be like, hey,
Well-
the guy from the city was here, you say, no, the city was here, oh, man, okay,
If the
That makes
press were,
people feel
if the
good.
press were there, the mayor of the
And
city
that's,
of Chicago would be there.
I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn so that Scott can go home and mess up.
I move we adjourn.
right?
Second?
Second, by Lisa, are we adjourned?
I,
Yeah, you can't, that I know about Robert's rules.